Alright guys, do a little video on tobacco. Jeff Raymond requested a video on how we used to do tobacco, and I'll cover it the best way I can. This will be mostly a talking video because there's the only thing left about tobacco on this farm are the baling boxes, an old setter with weeds growing up around it, and a few old tobacco sticks. So not much to look at, so y'all can look at these calves while I try to explain what we used to do. But I'll get in here. Usually sometime in March we'd break ground. I'm talking about tobacco beds. We plow it and then we let it sit. Usually sometime in April we'd cover the bed with plastic, get it all smoothed out real good, and cover it with plastic and put dirt all around the outside. A lot of times we'd trench it and cover it with plastic, kind of heat the ground up a little faster. We grew our plants. We didn't buy any. One year I think we bought some float bed plants, but we always grew our plants. So anyway, it would help heat the ground up. Then we would go in and put canisters of gas underneath the plastic and set them off after it got covered up again. And that would kill everything. And then we would go in there and sow the seeds with the fertilizer. We had a little walk behind. It was about 2 foot wide, and you put everything in like a little, it would hold about a 50-pound bag worth. And we'd walk up and down, and it would make a little track. And walk back and forth. And then when you got done with that, we had a concrete roller with 2 wooden handles on it. It was probably 10 inches in diameter and about 1.5 feet wide. And you would push that thing up one side and down the other, back and forth. Our float bed was probably about the size of this barn. Or, it's not float bed, but our beds were about the size of this barn or so. And then we would cover it with a canvas, a tobacco canvas. And you put stakes in the sides like you would a tent to stake it down. And you watch it grow. Usually, about the time that Memorial Day got here, it was time to pick plants and set tobacco. So we would go in the meantime during the month of May and get the field ready. Go in disc and fertilize it. Then we would pull plants by hand. And we took old feed sacks, laid them out flat on the ground, pulled plants, and bundled them up and put them in the back of a truck. And then we would set them. Of course, everybody's seen setting tobacco. If you haven't, there's plenty of videos online. But these things are fools. They have to beat me to death. So we'd set them usually around the holiday. Tobacco usually revolved around holidays, it seemed like. Memorial Day, we would set tobacco. And then sometime in the late summer, you'd go in and top it. Of course, we would go through and hoe everything with the hoe and all that good stuff, and drop sticks by hand. We did it all the fun way. And I guess a lot of people still do it like that. Then we would, about Labor Day, usually we would, we'd cut it and house it. Before we did that, obviously, we topped it and pulled suckers out. But we, usually around Labor Day, we housed it. And then, usually, around Thanksgiving, it was usually cold, wet, and rainy. Tobacco would come in case, and we'd start stripping. We had an old-fashioned. We used an old railroad jack and 3 boxes, and of course we didn't have a big operation, but we did. It was all family run. We didn't hire anybody. If we did, it was cousins. We paid them a little bit, but anyway, that's how we always did it. And then, you know, we take the tobacco to the warehouses in Bloomfield, Kentucky, and they have some really large warehouses still there today that everybody would take their tobacco to. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, the very last year we raised tobacco, but I believe I was in high school, and somewhere around there, early years of high school, and they offered a buyout. My brother went away to college, and it wasn't just me and him and Dad, and it was just getting to be too much with the dairy and the hogs. And I think at that time was the dairy expansion and all that good stuff. So anyway, they offered a buyout, and the way it worked, like each farm had a base, so many pounds, like 2,000 pounds, 5,000 pound base. That's how many pounds of tobacco you had to raise. If I remember correctly, you could skip out a year. Like if you didn't hit your base, you could hit the next year. I think it's how it worked out. I'm not real sure. I probably should ask around a little bit more before I did this video, but something along those lines. Well, they offered a buyout. They pay you your base at a given price for the next 10 years. And if you really wanted to, you could raise all the tobacco you wanted to, but you had to find a market for it. You had to get a contract. So you could actually take a base money for your farm. They just wanted to get rid of the bases. They wanted to buy everything out. And that's what they did. And so as far as I know, I mean, there's a lot of people that still raise tobacco, but when the bases went into effect, most farmers around here were old, tired, and they didn't continue their bases. I mean, obviously you couldn't do it anymore, but at that point, when you didn't have a base to go by, it was kind of hard. You had to raise a certain, I mean, it was hard to get a contract from what I've been told. You needed to raise a lot of tobacco. So anyway, I think there's a guy around here who raised 150 acres of tobacco. That's a crazy amount, I think. Imagine cutting all that by hand. Of course, it's all hired help. I've heard that, you know, I mean, the input cost, of course, the input costs are high and labor is high, but you get a little bit of money left over. I mean, really. But that's why we don't raise anymore. We took the buyout. They're going to pay us for 10 years, give you a check, and we just, that's just a given, really, for us. We just focused on the dairy and the hogs and all that good stuff. But anyway, that's how I hope I covered everything that I could that I remember. If you got any more questions to ask, I can always ask Dad. It's not real hard to ask him any questions, but I guess a few videos ago I told you that we're gonna go on halves. Me and my dad were gonna go halves on these cattle. I'm going to get a loan and buy him out, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take all this on myself. Of course, I got a job. It's gonna be a lot of fun. What I'm gonna do, let you in on a little secret, I guess. And what I think I'm gonna do. This is my plan. You'll find out if it works out or not. I got these things on barley and corn. All they can eat. And they're growing fast. They're implanted. Speaking of implants, I got my implant ideas from Ted Kaler. If you have any questions about cattle, he's the guy to talk to. They got a lot of cattle, and I don't have very many, as you can tell. So they know a pretty reasonable amount on cattle. But I did talk to him and ask him what he was doing, because his cattle looked really good. They were growing well. We talked back and forth about different programs and how he was doing, how I was doing it. And this is just going to work for me for now, because I'm not here all the time. Now, there is a better way to do this. And really, there's always a better way to do it, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, talk to him about implants. He's got a pretty good channel. Go check him out. My idea is, when these things hit 800 pounds, they're going on this. I know this looks nasty, but this is corn. It's all just a bunch of corn. And I haul it. I've got a contract for 2 years to haul it. There's a lot of farmers around there who haul a whole lot more than I do. They got several tankers, and they're feeding cattle this stuff. This is what I have. I'm young, and this is about what I can afford. So anyway, thinking about pouring a concrete trough. And yes, I am thinking about getting a tanker, but I'm gonna buy half these cattle. I don't know if I'm gonna get a tanker or not. I gotta work that out with the distillery that I'm getting it from. But anyway, most farmers around here report gains on Holstein cattle on slop to be around 2¼ pounds a day, which is not very good, but the input cost is zero, near zero. Other than if you grow your own hay, I mean, it's just, that's what you're gonna get. It takes a while to get them finished, but they will finish. You get toward the end, you'll have to grain them. I do believe when they distill it and you have that left over, they, I don't know for sure, but it lacks starch. And if you think about starch, you know, starch produces fat that I know of, muscle gain, I guess. Anyway, I think most of it's been cooked out. But anyway, I've been doing some thinking, talking with Dad, and I'm gonna put a 70-foot trough in here. It's wasted concrete. There used to be a feed trough in here a long time ago. There was a silo there a few years ago, knocked it down. Anyway, I think about putting a trough in here. I can dump in this thing because I have a contract and I gotta take it. If I do not, then I can terminate the contract, and then I might not be able to get it ever again. That'd be bad. There's a lot of distilleries around here, and really there's hardly enough cattle to eat all the slop and stuff that they produce. If they do not, the distillery has to get rid of it. You know, it costs them a lot of money to process all this stuff, and you know, to treat it to where it's able to go back in the water. You got to take all the stuff out of it, and it's just a lot of cost. It's a lot better just to have a farmer take it, run it through a cow. That's a natural filter, and they poop it out. We spread it on our fields. We raise corn for the distillery again. It's just a repeated process. Anyway, the gains are not very good. I talked to my nutritionist, and he's working on a plan, because I'm about the only one that's going to do it like this. I plan on finishing these Holstein on it, so he's working out a plan with silage and corn. I've already got a bin there. We got the silo. I have to buy some silage from Dad or whatever. Not a big deal. I might just trade him 8 acres of corn down there for 8 acres of silage. You know, he can shell it or whatever. It's good corn. So anyway, we'll work it out later. But now there'll probably be 2 groups of cattle on this at first, and then next summer I'm going to have a lot of cattle to eat that. It's going to take about 80 head or so to eat that tank every day, and I get a load every single day. So anyway, I've gone on long enough. I'll do another update video later on. Thanks for watching.